Hello and welcome to the One Shot Show where GMs go to level up. I am Patty. I am joined as always by Matt. And Matt, what have you brought into the room with us today? What is present and here with us?
Certainly an intelligence of dubious merit. I thought you were about to call me Matt GPT.
Oh, Matt GPT.
That would have been a good one.
Pat GPT and Matt GPT.
Totally missed that opportunity.
It hovers over us.
It truly does. We're kind of getting in on this one up to the elbows.
It had been thrown in.
This is going to ruin the tour.
We've talked about it a couple of times to talk about on the show, and you're like, I think it's time. We have to at some point.
We're talking about AI. We're talking about the intersection of AI and tabletop RPGs. Look, it's a naturally very contentious topic, and I like to think I come at it with a bit of a nuanced take, and I also want to kick off by kind of dispelling some very frustrating AI myths in both directions, right? First, I'm going to talk to the AI haters. You listening, AI haters? I hate when people say, don't use AI, it uses up a bunch of water. AI, like the data centers that you're thinking of and the sort of quote-unquote water usage, AI generation uses water in the same way that my computer uses water. It's water-cooled. The lossage is there. Don't get me wrong. There is water that is lost from the system. You know what happens to that water? It falls as fucking rain. Same as when a lake evaporates. Are you stupid? Did you miss the water cycle in science class? Fuck me dead. It's those kids who are like, why didn't they teach us this in school? And they fucking did. You were just sat at the back on your phone, right? Stop bringing the rest of us down to your ape level, for God's sake, right? I also really quibble with the electricity argument. That is the most bonkers and yonkers argument when they're like, it uses lots of power. So do fucking light bulbs. When the light bulb was first invented, did they say, whoa, we gotta stop putting light bulbs in buildings because we don't generate enough power for that? No, we developed more power generation. We built more power generation. We developed more sophisticated technologies to generate power more efficiently, right? Now, I'm not going to get in the weeds of burning hydrocarbons to generate that power. That one's flown the coop. That was several great-grandfathers ago for me that decision was made. I'm living in the mess just the same as you. I feel the water coming up to my ankles. Don't get me wrong. But the argument of, oh, well, look at how much power it uses. Fucking build more! Build more power plants! Invest in more green energy! Same as anything. Everything we invent uses more power than every technology previous. I need to calm down. I'm really getting up there.
Matt.
I have a real fucking bone to pick with those arguments against the usage of AI because there are some excellent arguments against the usage of AI. We're getting too in the weeds if we're trying to talk about, how much electricity it uses. What about the massive ethical concerns? Like, that is reason alone, right? That is reason alone for us to consider AI usage to be a bona fide underlying fundamental problem, right? Hands down. No two ways about it. Massive ethical problems. So those of you AI haters, I'm on your side. I do not like the existence of AI. I do not like it for a number of moral and ethical reasons. Frankly, I don't like what it produces. It doesn't produce much that's very good. And I don't believe that with the current path we're going down it ever will. If you have a bit of even a modicum of understanding about how large language models work, they don't know anything. What they're very good at is creating a sentence that looks roughly correct, right? An image that looks more or less like the thing you've asked it to make. It's not actually creating an image, right? And it can't create anything new, right? Now we go, oh, well, humans are just the same. Humans are just taking in all the experiences they had and creating things with that. But it's not the same, right? There is some ineffable other that seems to go on in our minds that we haven't yet been able to put into machines. Maybe one day we will. I don't know, right? But that's not where we're at now. We're not talking about that. It's a mind-boggling argument. However, the genie's out of the bottle. We have it now. Large language model AI is here. It is not going back in the bottle. It's not going away.
It's very present in our workplaces.
Doesn't matter
it's very
how
present in appetite. Like, yeah, I can feel its presence.
And I think the way it's going to exist for us is going to dampen a bit from where it is now, because everyone is goddamn sick of it being in every Excel spreadsheet and every Google search, right? It is exhausting having to avoid AI all the damn time just to have a normal experience with not just the internet, but now all digital workplace tools. It's extremely frustrating, and it's very clear that it is not what the people want. And at the end of the day, look, the voters with the wallet, and I think the wallets have spoken pretty damn loud. No one's buying what's being sold, right? No one's paying for Copilot in Microsoft. Like, the bill's going to come due there. I see the collapse coming, right, if I'm wanting to get into really big dramatic terms. However, it's not going to go away based off that. Like I said, genie's out of the damn bottle. Now, I've spent 5 minutes pissing and moaning.
That's been 5. Yeah.
5 minutes. Now that I've kind of got everyone up to speed on where I sit on the actual, like, AI as a thing, what it is, where the problems are, what it can do, what it can't do, what it should do, what it shouldn't do. Let's get into it with actual tabletop RPGs. It exists. We can't get away from it. That's it. It's happened, right? Is there a place for it in tabletop RPGs? And if there is, what is that place? Now, I will say, just to kick off my side of this, and then I'll hand the talking ball to you at last, it should not, in any way, shape, or form, be used as a part of a creative product, right? If you are using AI, if you are Wizards of the Coast and you're using AI in a book instead of paying an artist, special place in hell for that one, right? The elevator music on the way down, I don't know if you've read Dante's Inferno, he takes the elevator in the modern version. It's way quicker. There's a special place in hell for that, for sure. If you're a GM at home and you want to use AI for a battle map, I think you're fine to do that. And I know that's going to piss some people off, but I can't commission $500 every time I want a fully custom battle map. Patty, how do you feel about AI in tabletop RPGs?
Holy. I mean, I know my personal code of usage. I mean, that's what that's what I know for myself.
For the record, I actually don't use it at all.
I mean, I've been surprised. Yeah, that's
truly,
yeah.
I do not touch the stuff. I despise it. I don't use it for my battle maps. I talked about this before. I have a few people I back on Patreon. It costs me maybe $5 a month across all of them.
Yeah. You said,
and I get some battle maps that way. And look, they're not all perfect. They're not bespoke. I fit my campaign around what they produce because I just truly think that is fundamentally the more ethical approach.
Yeah.
But the other approach isn't so unethical that I have to truly quibble with it.
Yeah, that's so interesting. I'm just writing down the need for bespoke. I think that's such an interesting thing that AI is like tempting us with. Bespoke. I mean, I have, what are we talking, like in terms of large language models and in terms of like image generation, I would say when I started my Drakenheim campaign, which would have been about 3 or 4 years ago, there was really early image generation stuff that was out there on the net. And I had a couple of characters who were really cooking with something. And I was kind of like, why don't you, I was like, I want to play Jim Broadbent as a monk. And I'm like, oh, wonderful. I'm pretty and I was kind of like, and I found this thing, was like, here's Jim Broadbent as a monk for you. And he was like, oh, this is brilliant. It's beautiful. And that was like before, all of the fervor was really building. And at the time, I was like, fascinating, interesting. Another way to add something for my player that is like, they were really searching for this thing that they couldn't find and existed, something bespoke. And it was so interesting because those things were in there and they were a little bit funny for a while. But that campaign went on and like characters died and came back and died and came back. And that didn't become something that we used after that point. I've never really gone into, I can maybe see how large, was this thing of like, get your large language model to GM for you. Or
never understood that.
I don't understand it either.
And again, it's because it can't create. But I'm also going to say something that's very spicy. I actually think maybe, I'm going to be generous. I'm going to say 30% of GMs are quite boring. There's a good 30% of GMs. Their games aren't bad. They're perfectly serviceable. They're perfectly adequate Dungeons and Dragons. But you could replace them with an LLM and probably not notice the difference, right? That is not a mark against the GM at all. What that is is a fucking credit to D&D. That is a credit to the structure and medium of tabletop RPGs.
Yeah.
That the fun is so goddamn emergent, right? It's something that we've looked at a lot in video games. RPG video games have forever been attempting to emulate a modicum of what it feels like to play a D&D game. You go all the way back to the early text-based RPGs. The problem was there was a limited number of text inputs you could give that it could actually interpret and parse and give an outcome to.
Yeah.
But a real person can come up with any response. And to be honest, an LLM will give you a response to anything you put in that will be more or less cogent. And that would be serviceable for a tabletop RPG. It would be like the most, low-end, like bottom-feeding version of what you could do with a tabletop RPG. We talk all the time on the show about how to elevate the medium, and this is exactly why. Because I think every GM out there doesn't want to only be at ChatGPT levels of sophistication, and most actually aren't. Most are already above that point from the get-go. But look, in theory, it could kind of fit the function.
Yeah.
I don't understand why people would want that. Because again, I'm like, it's not that hard to just find a real GM who's probably already better, but yeah, you could do it.
I feel that's the chorus that we're going to keep singing. It's kind of like, I don't understand why you would want that. Yeah. At my table, certainly the way that I GM at the moment, there's no need for me to use it. And also, there's no desire for me to use that. And also, and this isn't just with things like Fury of the Small. I try and treat my game table like I am creating a work of art for my players.
I was thinking the exact same thing. Like, I'm trying to do art here.
Absolutely, I like my art to be human made.
Can of Worms, that topic, are TTRPGs art?
Oh, that's its own thing.
The debate is settled as far as video games are concerned, but I think there's a really interesting discussion around tabletop RPGs on that. That could be a lot of fun.
Fury of the Small is not art?
No, I think it is.
It is art.
But that's why I think it begs discussion.
Yeah. And also a lot of my players are artists. And so I want to honor their position in the world. And I want to make sure that what I'm doing is uplifting their position. And the other thing that gets me, the other part that really, the artists that inspire me, whose work that I am pursuing or emulating in game form, are people who that was not part of their zeitgeist.
Yeah.
I go if I'm trying to create something that feels as detailed as a world that Miyazaki has created, I want to follow what I've learned and been inspired by him.
Yes.
So I just treat every game of D&D that I make like it's a work of art, and as a result, I don't want or desire or need any AI in my work.
Now, look, there is one particular brand of tool that I've come across that I much more closely see the need for, to the point where I could almost see myself using this. And there's a reason I don't. And it's session summary tools, note-taking tools.
Like the recording of the...
Straight up, under the hood, they're using an LLM to basically listen in and summarize. And I got absolutely no bones about that. I got no quarrel, right? I think that's perfectly reasonable. Now, I don't use them because... between me and my table of players, we don't have an issue remembering everything that needs to be remembered, and I don't want to get bogged down in too many extraneous details. The summaries are generally pretty good at skipping those details, but sometimes they keep them in there. And I start off every single session with who would like to recap last session.
Yeah.
That's just one of the things that I do, and it helps us get in the mood of the game. And I think even if I hand wrote my own summary and read that out, I don't think it would feel the same. And that's why I don't use that tool. There isn't a place for it. Not because I don't think it's a good tool. I actually think if there's anything you're going to use, that makes sense to me.
Does it worry you? So this is just me. This is me. This is my tin hat. It's kind of I worry about tools like that because I'm afraid of where my voice is going.
Yes,
my literal voice.
That's And again, because peace and love, I like to think that I'm operating on a level up here with what I'm trying to do with my games, right? And same as when I'm writing, I don't want to lose the me in it. I could get ChatGPT to write all kinds of stuff for me, but it would lose the me.
Oh, sorry. You're talking about artistic voice. I'm talking about my literal digital recording of my of myself, which is so funny.
You don't want your likeness out there.
I'm just wondering where my likeness is being poured into in order to then create that summary. That's my tin hat fear.
Now here's and I think I kind of want to close this out with maybe another minute or two. Hopefully not of ranting and raving, but we'll see how this develops, Patty. the actual ethical concerns, the truly gravitas ethical and moral concerns. Now, I'm going to preface this by saying I am sorry the genie is out of the bottle, but these tools were trained on art that they did not have the right to view and train themselves on. They did not have the legal right or moral right, because I'm going to be honest, the law is lagging behind our moral and ethical standards around art, especially in the digital realm, right? It wasn't even fucking close to being an acceptable thing for these companies to develop these tools the way that they did. But they exist now. And this is a shocking comparison that I'm going to make, and I need you to all sit with me in this.
Well, 1 minute on the clock. Let's sit in.
You know the absolutely horrific experiments that the Japanese did during the Second World War? The Nazis did terrible human experiments. The CIA did terrible human experiments. Awful, 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 profoundly illegal, and frankly, deeply grotesque and unsettling. However, from the science done by those, genuine medical advancements that benefit everyday people were in fact made. Now, I'm not going to get into the ethical weeds of it. I've made my stance very clear. I think these things are heinous. However, they happened. I can't undo them now. So am I going to decline access to those medical advancements? I don't think I am. Now, that's how I feel about AI. AI companies had absolutely no right and continue to have no right to use the data that they use to develop the tools that they develop. There are a few ethical ones out there. I know they're doing their best, but they are the minority and their tools struggle as a result of that. However, the technology now exists. I can't undo it. It can't be taken back. The genie is out of the bottle. Now, are we going to use these tools in ways that are appropriate and acceptable and worthwhile? Or are we going to ignore the potential in this technology whole cloth because of our concerns? Now, when I look at it that way, I know what side of the debate I sit on. I despise AI. I avoid using it in every way, shape, or form. But I'm in no way closed off to using it ever. I just haven't actually come across the necessary tool. I haven't come across the medical advancement that came from the human experimentation that truly benefits my life. But I believe that it is possible. It will exist in my lifetime, and I am not going to close myself off to it. This has been a very intense episode of the One Shot Show. Go for a walk, look at the trees, smell the scents upon the wind, and we'll see you in the next one. If you're enjoying listening to The One Shot Show, why not support us on Patreon? Go to patreon.com/OneShotShow, where you'll be able to find video versions of our episodes, long-form bonus episodes that we release every single month, access to our community Discord server. You can pose questions for our special Q&A episodes, and if you're back at the higher tiers, you can even vote on what questions we cover in our show. Check it out.